Budget Workshop Committee of the Whole meeting for April 27th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started where we left off here. Mr. Miller, if you would like to take the wheel.
All righty. Any follow-up questions from last meeting that we need to discuss right away?
I mean, we have some major changes in funds, like the police and the building department, but we can get to them when we get to them. So unless you want to go back to those ones that were updated, we can do that as well. So as far as the police, I had Basonic do another study because we questioned the numbers that we got during our meeting when the presentation was given to us at 35,000 this next fiscal year, and then the following fiscal year 45,000. We questioned those. Basonic went through them with a fine-tooth comb over a few-day period and come up with 29,000 per quarter per guy. So it's significantly less. And then the next year will be about the same thing. So we're not looking at any increases. So our budget did go back down to the around 790,000, and we kept it a little high in case we have overtime. As far as the building department, Linda Willing did a couple-day study and come up with some projections of what she thinks. So we did raise those funds, and we won't know where we're at exactly till July. So she's going to keep a close eye on it, and then when July comes, if those 4 months come in, they have some big changes, we'll come back to the board and we'll make some adjustments to that as well. So those were the major changes. And once we get to roads, I'm going to be able to cut roads down to about 300,000 from the 500. So we'll go over that when we get to the roads. So other than that, we just we can roll right through, Bob.
Perfect. Let's start with line number 420, Department 302 ordinance.
Is Officer Cecil on with us? I think he's calling in right now. The 467 number. George, if you'd let him in. Mr. Cecil, are you here?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, take it away, man. It's yours if you want to run through the budget.
Okay. I was told that Bob was going to do the.
Okay, go ahead, Bob. And if anybody has any questions, Damon can answer them. Go ahead, Bob.
Yep, you can jump in at any time with any questions.
Okay.
We got the salary, accrued wages. Pretty much everything just carried forward. There are some ordinance violations we bumped up a little bit. Other than that, does anybody have any questions?
Damon, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. I just, if they had any questions, I'd do my best to answer them.
I guess the board got an email from Shayla Pitson a couple days ago about wages. Does the board have any plans to bring this forward or to do anything with that? As if not, now would be the time to change those. Otherwise, we'll have to come back and do a budget adjustment throughout the year. So I think the board ultimately needs to look at all the part-time people and do a little bit of a study and the full-time, and kind of get them where we need to be. So people aren't coming to, department heads, saying, hey, we're underpaid. We could just keep up with it on our own. So, okay. And nobody have any questions? Go ahead, Damon.
If I could just inject one thing. I think in regards to part-timers, where we get hurt the most and is obviously when you're full-time, you get paid holidays, and we have 12 of those holidays a year. So the part-timers, we lose 12 days of pay. That's 96 hours of pay we lose there. And then if you take time off, for vacation, or God forbid, we're sick for any length of time, we lose that pay too. And I know in our department, we average about 176 hours a year where we don't get paid. And at one time I had asked, and I think that was kind of what Shayla was talking about, was that, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving and all that, we lose 6 days there. And so I would just like it if the board could consider thinking about, not just for our department, but for all of us dedicated part-timers. I mean, we're not, our people, we got a lot of good part-time people that work in the township, and they all lose that pay. And I just think it would be nice if we could look at some benefits, that would benefit us as part-timers as well, sort of a reward for the dedication, like Shayla had written in her letter. I mean, she's been a 13-year part-time employee of the township and, has never been offered a full-time position anywhere. And the ordinance department, it was created back in the 80s, I believe, and never has had a path to improve to get anything like that for any benefits. So I think that's kind of where the frustration level comes out, is being recognized, for what we do as part-time employees.
Okay. All right. Any more questions from the board? Okay. All right, Bob. Moving on. Thank you, Damon. And
Yep.
Damon,
All
you
right.
have
Have a good day.
budgeted
Yep.
for legal wages? You do have enough budgeted for legal?
Well, I budgeted 9,000, and it's like I told Bob, we talked about it today. A few years ago, it was 15,000. I've tried to, trim things, but I put it at 9,000. Now I'm almost to that limit right now on my last budget on the end here. I have a hard time saying how much that's going to be, because a lot of times it's going to depend on whether we're reviewing ordinances and you want changes. If we have cases that have to go to court, I don't have an idea in advance of how many of those are going to be. I've got 5 cases currently up at the courthouse in the attorney's hands from last year that haven't even been adjudicated yet.
Okay. Hey, why don't we just bump it up to 12, and then we know we're good. If you're already at 9 right now, that shows you're not budgeting enough. So let's bump that to 12, Bob, if the board's okay with that. And then that should cover it. All right, Damon,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, have a good night. All right, Bob, moving on, buddy.
Okay, as a recap, we have a $3,000 bump in the ordinance department. On to building inspection, line 448.
Okay, so I gave Bob a little spreadsheet. The department was in building 152, in plumbing 20. So Bob has that information.
Hey, Paul, could you go back?
Paul, you're cutting in and out a lot.
Say again?
You're cutting in and out a lot. I couldn't tell if it was just me, but I couldn't hear almost anything. You
Okay.
just said.
Can you hear me now? Okay, so building 152, plumbing 20, mechanical 44, electrical 28, total fees 244. And like I said, we won't know if those are kind of on course till July. At July, we'll look at them again, revisit it, and we'll come either back to the board or we'll be on track. So we'll have to do a budget adjustment if there's not enough, and if there's too much, we can always bump it down. So it's just a guess right now, because there's just not a lot of industrial on the books for this year, or commercial. We look like we're probably on track to do roughly the same for houses. So we'll see.
Clarifying, that was permits, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, no changes in building inspection. Emergency management preparedness, we can leave that the same unless anybody has any comments. Public drains. Street lighting. Down to line 519, Department 450 roads.
Okay, so a lot going on here. So basically, the local road projects for 2021 would be Concierge Road to Secor Road to Douglas, OBC, followed by a single seal. That's 8750. Crab Road, Erie Road to Rouk, a single seal at 40,000 roughly. Dean Road, Crab Road to Minks, Bar Seal with a single seal, it's about 24,000. Jackman Road, Temperance Road to Erie Road, single seal. And that says MCRC funded. So Samaria Road, line to Secor Road, that's a single seal, 20,000, 21,000 roughly. Substation Road, Dean to Minks, single seal, 27,000. Temperance Road, Township line to Secor, single seal, 17,200. Deerfield Woods subdivision, OBC, and that'll be Ms. Hirschberger refunded back to us. We're just funding the project. Linwood Drive, Summerfield Road to Case, cross tile placement. That's 3,400. And then miscellaneous project, these are some of the ones that we need to kind of discuss. We got mowing local roadways at 23,600. That's what we do every year. We cut the ditches, and we do dust control on dirt roads twice a year. It's called chloride application at 40,530. Excess grade all is something that was added in the last year or two. These are projects that the road commission just doesn't have the funds for, like a broken tile in a road that, they just won't ever get to or fix. So that's something we can decide if we want to keep. The pavement marking program for the various local roads, that's another 5,000. And then we got 15,000 budgeted, which might be a lot. I mean, I don't know, next year might be different for OBC projects for special assessment districts like we just approved last meeting. So the total is roughly 255. We've got budgeted right now 500. Thousand for we could keep that in there. Something up in question. Hear me or my? You guys,
You're freezing up.
Froze me. That are in the local road system that are a danger or an emergency. Is it $10,000? Or some of these trees will be lost. Budget for it. So the board can decide if you want to stick money in that.
Yeah, Paul, you were breaking up really bad again. In fact, you're frozen right now. Can you hear Paul?
I can hear you guys.
Okay, because you're freezing up really bad. Were you just talking about the $10,000 for tree removal on roads?
Yes.
We didn't budget that before, but doesn't that fall under the road commission responsibility?
Yes, but so does fixing the roads, period. It's not something we have to do. We don't have to remove deer at $5,000, but if we don't, they just come put lime on them, and they sit and they just break down with the lime. These are just extra things that we've been doing because the road commission doesn't have the funds. If another trustee wants to take it up with them, and I have, this is the money that they're giving us. So, yeah. So the tree removal thing is new. We don't have to do it. But when we get calls and the road commission says, we don't have the funds for it, they just leave the tree. And then when it falls, then they clean it up.
So it looks like we spent $24,000 in fiscal year end 2020. Nothing last year. And then this year we're looking for 10 to put in the budget.
That's contracted services.
Well, it says tree removal on the side there.
Yeah, we've never spent money on tree removal. That's budget for contracted services.
So that 24,000 is more than just the trees. It's a little bit everything.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm saying we do is, you guys tell me what you want to do with the tree removal, the access grade all, and some of those things, but I think we could drop it down to in case some other projects come up, we have the funds available. But I think 300,000 is a really good safe number, and that brings us down, another couple hundred.
Does that
Yeah.
include the Adler project?
Adler will be out of this year's budget. We have the funds in this year's budget.
Is it gonna be done this fiscal year?
But it won't hit.
I'm gonna have them bill it for this year. I mean, I'm gonna, either way, if we get a bill, we're gonna have to figure it out with our audits to take it out of this year's budget. And we did it last year. Or this year, actually, I thought, because we had same thing this year. We had $400,000 or $500,000 budgeted, and we're still getting bills from last fiscal year coming out of this budget that were for last year.
I know that Bob and I just went through the bills and we still have outstanding
Yeah,
invoices.
we should see 18,000 more, 18,000 total coming from the time that we got the numbers to see if we could do Adler this year. I'll talk to the road commission and tell them we need to get a bill before July.
Because if not, we should probably just budget it in this fiscal year and be done. Because if they don't get it to us, we're still gonna end up carrying it. And it's up to everybody, I'm just throwing it
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it's gonna show we're out of line for our budget for next year.
I can understand when it goes from, project in May or June, it gets billed July, August, but I mean, sometimes these bills come through from the road commission, just disastrously late. I mean, we're talking more than half a year to a year. I don't know how anybody operates that way. I don't know what we can do to try to enforce. I mean, here we are trying to say, hey, we want to pay our bills, and yet we can't get an invoice.
Situation, so she's the new director.
Okay, I know Bob had spoke to the road commission too, trying to get some of these invoices cleared up.
So
Another-
Judy, if we do we approved the project last meeting, okay, if they do the project in July 15th and we get a bill in August, there's no way to with the auditors to put it on last fiscal year.
No.
Okay.
What I can do is I can do
ahead.
I can do an accrual. So prior to year end, if we know we have so much outstanding, I can
Yeah,
account
you're
for
going
that.
to have that bill outstanding from that. If we could do that, that'd be great. Perfect. I say we leave it the same and let Bob do that.
So when we get close to year end, we'll just have to get a good number that's still outstanding.
Yeah, which we should have a pretty solid number. Okay. Anybody else have it? What's your guys' thoughts on tree removal? You want to leave it?
Well, that's on the line with contracted services. So again, you got more than just tree removal in that number.
Bob, what all do we do? Do you have the detail? What all is in contracted services? Is it the snow removal in there at the 15K? Or no, that's got its own line item.
That's its own
It
line.
was, the last one was demolition of Michigan Tavern.
Okay, so yeah, that's why we're only budgeting the 10 because we won't need 24. So
where did our expenditure in this year that we're just ending in this June, where was our snow removal taken from?
it was taken from roads because Dave didn't budget it.
So it was
I
just
guess,
taken
right,
from-
Trudy, or am I wrong?
No,
Board
it
never
wasn't.
took out.
I went through all my minutes. Nothing was asked for snow removal last year.
Well, it was never asked to be taken out either, and I don't think we did any changes. So
I
either way,
don't think
I mean,
Bob and I found it, but it's in there now, so.
it was taken out of roads.
So it was just spent out of roads budget period and
Correct.
it's just not a line item.
Correct. Now it's got its own line item.
Is that about what we spent?
Last year, oh gosh, I mean, we only had one up in one time where we had to use it, and it was roughly, and these guys worked 14. I mean, it was about $6,000 what it cost us to get it done. So I mean, I think we should leave 15 in there. I mean, if you get 3 snows, that money's gone.
We could take 3 heavy snows and
Yeah. So it's you just don't know. If you get 6 snows, you're gonna have to budget more. If you get 1, you're gonna be under. You know. So
One last question I have.
I don't know about the tree removal. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how that's gonna work. You know, if residents are just gonna start calling the road commission and saying, hey, my tree's a danger, and they're gonna call me, what is it? Thousands of trees in the road right in our desert to the road. I mean, I don't know. I think it could. We should budget for it.
Yeah, you're breaking up
Personally.
again, Paul.
I don't know. I just put it in there for discussion for the board. I'm still breaking up.
Yes, periodically. I mean, like you just said, though, you could be opening up Pandora's box here.
Yeah,
Um,
because right now, I mean, the road commission, they're telling them that, hey, we don't take trees down in the road right away under local road system. Call the township, and they call me and I say, I don't know what they're talking about. We don't remove trees either. So I'll call the road commission and say, hey, we don't have any funds for it. I'm like, well, we don't either. We don't budget for tree removal. So I said I would bring it to the board and see what you guys thought.
we're going to have another meeting. So what would you think about, from a liability standpoint, if we discuss that briefly with Phil and then either leave it in or take the funds out next meeting after we find a definition of liability?
Well, the liability is on the road commission, period. But as far as getting the work done and whose trees get taken down, what's considered
Right.
danger, that's where it gets, I mean, they're asking me to go out and look at them with the road commission. I don't personally want to do that.
Yeah, one person is dangerous, another person says, it's not really hurting anything.
Yeah.
It's just hanging there.
I guess we could leave it there. And what I could do is if we have a tree, I could bring it to the board, have the board go look at it and decide as a board. I mean, if we have a tree that's a danger to our community, it's sitting, leaning by a bus stop, the road commission won't take it down. We can be proactive as a board and say, hey, we're taking that tree down. I mean, we could run into that situation, but we can make it a board decision. You guys want to do that? Leave the 10 in there?
Would we hire that out to somebody then, subcontract it out?
The road commission has a contractor that they put out for bid each year and they get awarded. So they have a tree removal contractor and that they will sub out to, but they do some of it in-house.
Okay, I was just wondering if we're paying for it and we have a local company, is that possible, or do we have to use who they bid with?
It'll be with what they use.
How
do they have-
It'll be something we're paying for, so we can, talk to them about it. I mean,
Well,
through each
that's
local
sort of
people.
contradictory then, because if they're,
Yeah.
why would they hire anybody if they're saying we can't do it?
certain trees they won't touch. Like there was one on Douglas Road in between Erie and Rauk, I think Erie and Rauk, yeah. Samaria. I'm sorry, Erie and Samaria, and it was huge, and they had contract that one out, I believe. A lot of times with the SADs, special assessment districts, where trees got to come out, So, I say we just leave it in there, and every
So this
tree,
would be
if we do
for-
get a tree, I bring it to the board. I guess.
So this would be for stuff that, like, it goes to them first, and then it's, all right, they're saying no, they're not gonna do it, because they're not definitively doing zero.
Correct.
It's just if they decide it's worth it or not. And then if they decide it's not worth it, then we do a board decision to decide if we think it's worth it.
Correct.
Yeah, the proper channels just need to be followed. It's got to go through the road commission first, and then we go from there.
Yep. Okay. All right. Moving on. Then I think we're good. Bump the 500 to 300.
I do have one other question concerning your road maintenance. You mentioned several line items within that. Did you want to break any of those out and make it a separate line item, such as grade all or anything like that?
They got access grade all under the miscellaneous projects for the road commission, for the local stuff, miscellaneous projects, they have local mowing. I mean, we could do that. We could break it down in our own items, mowing local roads, dust control, access grade all, pavement marking, and special assessment district. That's all, that's $89,000 worth of miscellaneous, but you could do your own line items for that to break it down for
Okay.
sure.
Alrighty.
Good idea for tracking.
I can give you, do you want exact figures right now for those?
Not right now. I can get with Al and we'll
Okay.
get together and create something.
Okay, I got it's just a little spreadsheet right here. It just kind of
Yep.
shows, and so I'll get a copy for you.
Okay. Recap. The total adjustment will be a decrease of 300,000, so your final budget for roads will be 372,000. Mosquito control, nothing there. Contribution senior center.
Leave it the same.
Okay. Planning department. Oh, we did planning, sorry. Line 589, Department 720 or 722, zoning. Economic development, Department 729. Line 611, Department 747, community action.
Okay, so I'll take a couple of these real quick. So obviously economic development, Tim Lake, that's where we pay Tim Lake from the Business Development Corporation out of that fund. So the board knows and understands that. Community action, we, back in August, when we did, I think it was August, Trudy, right? Or was it July when we made a lot of our changes to prepare for the future, whatever, was that June? Well, anyways, we pulled out community cleanup in case we did see, the major reduction. We didn't. So community action, we have community cleanup at 15K. If we did leave that in there, that would be something we do this fall. So that's already scheduled with Stevens if we leave it in there. If we don't, we'll just cancel. And I don't know if we're going to end up seeing a contract with Mulch King or not. Or what the board's feelings are on moving forward with a contract. I mean, we would have to budget in that as well. So I mean, we could always do a budget adjustment if he gets things straightened out and we want to partner with him next year or whatever. We'd have to budget, whatever.
The newsletter also comes out of this community
Newsletter.
action. Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, we've had no changes, correct?
Okay, so we're not going to budget for Mulch King for next fiscal year. For right now, just leave it alone. Okay. All right, moving on.
What community cleanup? That's the tires and
No tires.
what is
So
it?
you partner with Stevens. They do it all over the county. They say not to do it every year. So we did it a few times in a row heavy. We missed a year where they bring all the dumpsters and you could bring all your trash over. It's an opportunity for the community if they have junk laying around. It encourages them, hey, it's time to get rid of your junk for free.
When was the last one we did?
Not
Was
last year because of COVID, but the year before.
Did we do it the year before?
Yeah.
That's it. I was.
And that's when we had our most successful one. It was, I think we spent $10,000 or $15,000, something like that. 15,000. Normally we spent like 3,000 or 4,000 or something. But so I say we leave it, do it, and maybe next year we can skip one. So
We can
okay,
skip.
moving on.
If we do it this year, we can skip it a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, I believe it encourages people to get stuff from other areas and bring it over. And, I think if you do it every couple few years, it's fine.
And that's why
Especially
you,
since we did it.
you tell them you're not going to get the opportunity for the next couple of years, so you better use it now.
Yep. Okay, moving on, Bob.
Okay, recap, Department 747, we have no changes, correct? Grants Committee. I highlighted this one for an opportunity if we want to put money in the budget, if we have to do a grant, that has to be matched. If that's a possibility. Just
So
a thought.
Trudy, a lot of those, the right-of-way fund, there's a couple of different ways like when we did the, matching grant for Lewis Avenue, that come out of, what was that, right-of-way funds?
Metro funds.
Metro funds, yeah. A lot of times we use that and there's money in there.
My personal opinion, if we get a grant that is matching, we come back to the board and ask.
Yeah, I agree.
We just never know. I don't want to lock up money we don't need.
Because it could be $150,000 match for a project.
Right.
Okay, moving on, Bob.
No changes. TAP grant. I think we have some outstanding invoices that'll be clearing this year. We're still trying to confirm if the TAP grant has been fully closed out or not yet.
Well, never mind, moving on. I'll keep my mouth shut. There's a reason why it's not closed out. So, okay, moving on.
Contribution Park, line 637. Just carry that over. We do have to verify that once we do other funds, that this line item matches the revenue on the parks revenue. So we got to come back and verify that the two numbers match. Capital
So is the
improvement
park board going to be presenting their budget or?
tonight. Yep, if we can get that far.
Oh, okay.
Capital improvement plan. Contribution library.
Can we come back to the capital improvement plan when we're all done with the budget?
Yes.
And I believe if we're $200,000 in the green, then that's something we can look at and say, hey, let's stick 200,000 in the capital improvement plan for the future, or 100.
While we're there too, why I don't believe the capital improvement plan, why is the fire station stuff getting thrown in there? Hello?
Who you asking, me? Anybody?
I don't, anybody, I guess, like that, why is that fire station stuff getting thrown into that account?
Well, it's got the fire station loan principal and interest has to come out of Fund 101 somewhere. And it was a capital improvement, so that seems like a good place for it.
I'd rather not, based off of, that's not what, like, those building improvements were planned far in advance, and we're coming out of somewhere else prior to that the purpose of the capital improvement plan is for future issues, not to instantaneously rip the money that's finally been allocated there, to rip it right out of there to pay off something that we've already been budgeted for and working on. Is my
So as far as CDs and monies that we have put away, is there's CDs or anything that we could tap into to just pay off the fire department?
It's most of it is restricted funds that are in the CDs that we can't touch. That's what Paul put away into the investments.
When can you touch them?
I'd have to look into that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, because I mean, I'd just be curious how long they're restricted for, and if it's something, if they're unrestricted next year, we can just pay it off, But, okay, I don't know, Craig, where else we would put that money? I mean, I don't.
Well, where's it been?
It came out of buildings and grounds.
I just don't like the idea. I mean, it is what it is. I just don't like the idea of instantaneously ripping the money we finally, 8 years later, are finally getting set aside for future issues and whatever, to rip the money right back out of there.
Well, let's put another, I mean, I think we're gonna see an excess of $100,000 easily in our budget. Well, we could stick it in there. And that'll replenish it right there. Let's keep adding 100 or so every year.
You could use a separate line item too.
It just completely defeats the purpose. It completely defeats the purpose of the capital improvement fund.
It doesn't defeat the purpose. It just, we didn't expect something to come out of there right away. We're putting this money to set aside for like a roof for the township hall. We just happen to have a capital
Something
improvement.
that we're already working on and already been paying for. It's like if you start saving for, like you start saving for a new roof for your own house, you don't take money out of there to go buy groceries. Oh, we got money. You completely defeat the purpose of putting the money off to the side for the future event.
Well, Bob, why don't we take it out and put it in a different line item?
Here's how we can work this. I think the loan principal for the fire station, it can stay here, but on line 644, where it says contribution to fund 446, that's where we put our long-term planning. So if you want to put 100,000 away and bank it, put it there. We'll transfer it to 446, and that's where we can keep it.
Okay.
Right. That's why I say make a separate
So we're
line.
still ripping the money that we put away. We still are ripping the money that we put in there out of it.
Well, the loan principal and interest, that's got to go somewhere. So yes, you're going to lose that. But if you put in 100,000 on line 644, that'll be ripped out right away, but it's going to go to fund 446, a separate fund all by itself. And we won't touch that except for a specific capital project, a long-term project. And that's how you save it.
That's been being paid out of buildings and grounds. That's not that didn't just start this year. It's been being paid out of buildings and grounds since its inception. Correct?
I'd have to go back and look at the history on that.
That's correct, Craig.
So, I mean, like, it is what it is. It's just I think it's the principle of the matter that you finally establish something and are finally being halfway borderline responsible with money, and we let it burn a hole in our pocket, and you're just pulling the money right out. You're not putting anything away. You're not planning. I don't know. I just think it's foolish.
Well, you got to fund it.
I would prefer.
So
everybody keeps saying that, but it's already been being out of buildings and grounds. It's not like this money just appeared.
That's true.
It's been out of another place that you moved it into here.
Okay, but how many things?
So if it can go somewhere, it can go back where it came from.
Okay, but how many things have we made changes to this particular year's fiscal budget we're developing? Because Bob has cleaned up a lot of things, and we have moved things into different areas and created new line items. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to align so we can clearly identify. So if Bob has to add another line item or two to make it definitive, and yes, you're right, keep that capital improvement that you're talking about. That's a line item that you can't touch. And then for the fire station 1, that goes into a separate line. So that's controlled under that separate line. Because it truly is a capital expenditure, and I think it's appropriate here. It's just, I mean, if you were going to put $100,000 over in building and grounds to cover this, Well, you don't do that now. You put the 100,000 over here to cover it.
Okay, moving on, Bob.
Okay, you said we'll come back to this to discuss if we want to put anything in here for future.
I just think if at the end of everything we're doing and we have 150 extra $1,000, then the board can decide if you want to just stick it in there.
Perfect.
So is the board agreeable to what Craig's saying? Do we want to leave it the same? Do we want to move it? What are we doing?
Can we
Okay,
just
well-
look into it and come back to it at our next meeting? And Bob can look and see if there's any other fund to put it in?
Okay.
I'm comfortable with what Rick proposed.
Okay, moving on, Bob.
Contributions library and retire your healthcare. Okay, if no comments there, we can switch over to other funds. Other funds will be on your second spreadsheet. We'll start with fire. Fund 206.
Chief, you there? Or do you want to have,
Yes, sir.
do you want to run through it or you want to have Bob run through it?
It's up to Mr. Miller. I'm comfortable either way.
I was just going to leave it for open questions. If there's
How
any
did,
line items,
what happened with the revenue? How is revenue getting almost $1 million extra dollars? I was just curious about that. I'm obviously not against it, but
That's that would be the new millage that was voted in. Was it August? So, yes, so the millage, it's a 5-year millage now, and it was an increase to basically sustain the full-time firefighting positions that are coming off the grant. So that was a 3-year grant. We knew at the time when we accepted it, if we were going to continue the positions, then we needed to increase that millage, which we put back out in the primary and was approved. So the budget increase is going to address that, as well as some capital improvements, we believe, for Station 2, which is in need of some upgrades.
All right, Bob, keep moving forward, and if anybody has any questions or if Chief has to answer anything, we're good. Go ahead.
okay. Any questions on the expenses? And their fund balance is in great shape. What we're going to do now is we'll skip right down to line number 280, which is Fund 211 fire equipment. That's line number 280. Any questions with Fund 211? Okay. Any comments, Adam, before we go? All right, let's head back up to,
well, hold
Go ahead.
on. So why can't your for the money we were just referencing for capital outlay can't land in either of those accounts?
So the 211 account is specific to apparatus and equipment, can't be spent for anything else. When we did the upgrades to Station 1, we all understood that we didn't have the funding to address the needs we've got at Station 1, which are the exact same needs that we're facing at Station 2 right now. We've got electrical system problems, we've got code compliance problems, we have a lot of things that need to be addressed in both. Simply put, the budget doesn't sustain in addressing both. So back at the time, the upgrades were done at Station 1. We agreed that Station 1 would be funded out of the general fund. And Station 2, moving forward, would be funded out of the fire department. So you'll see that we've got at the bottom of our is it 206? Yes, at the bottom of our 206 fund, or 206 budget for this year, capital outlay for the fire station. That is anticipated or intended to address the vast needs we have at Station 2. We've got electrical needs. We've got the code compliance needs. We've got the sprinkler and the fire alarms that are grant funded. You'll see that in revenue under the grant funding. So a good portion of that is grant funded as well. But there simply isn't enough to satisfy both of the station's needs.
Yeah, and he's correct. When we talked about funding that, it was talked about out of the general fund. So,
for the maintenance of vehicles and equipment, that those two were, or did that right? That were taken out.
Correct. So with the new millage, the 211 millage now, apparatus and equipment is an acceptable expense from that 211 fund. So if you flip back to the 211 fund, you'll see that we have apparatus maintenance and equipment capital and maintenance in there.
I didn't see anything budgeted for those.
I'm sorry, in the 206 fund?
Yeah, in 211, I see the, oh, wait.
Line 293.
Yeah, but they're just not. Okay, so it is in requested budget
Correct.
in the new.
Correct. Last year, I think it was split between the two budgets, but it makes it a little confusing. So I think that last year, part of it came out of the 211 and part out of the 206. This year, to make it cleaner and easier to read, the maintenance for the apparatus is going to come out of 206 or in the coming.
Why is that not in Bob? Why are those numbers not in the final budget line or column? I'm sorry.
Oh, because those line items were added. I didn't copy down the formula.
That's fine. That's why I didn't see it. I'm just looking down that column and it just looked like there's nothing transferred. So that makes perfect sense.
I just fixed it so it'll be updated on your next copy that comes out. Thank you.
thanks, Chief.
All righty. Any more questions concerning fire? Just to recap, we have no changes. Let's go back to line 101. It's Fund 207, Police Fund. Any questions with Police Fund? Okay, no changes, Police Fund. Line 145, just Fund 208, Park. At this point, I think Carol or a park member might be on the line.
Hey, Bob, for the police fund, there's the dark line, or I don't know if that was a highlight before it was printed. Is that waiting for an accurate number, or is that not going to be, there will be no fund balance appropriated?
Right. Great question. This will be the same with all of these individual funds. We're going to stop using the fund balance appropriated. In the past, what they were doing was if they wanted to take money out of their fund balance, they would put it here in revenue when it's truly not a revenue. If we want to take money out of the fund balance, it's going to show that revenue or expenses exceed revenue, so that the line item called net of revenue will be a negative. And that's how we'll remove it from fund balance instead of creating a revenue account called fund balance appropriated. So I blacked those out to signify that we won't be using that.
So I'm just trying to like, think through how that'll be used then. Like, so if is that only going to be used for like specific budget adjustments, and or if there was it like in actual like budget time right now, if there needs to be to remain for the fund to remain solvent, that's the only time that you would appropriate a fund balance?
Nope, we're never going to use fund balance again. Fund balance appropriated. We won't use that line again.
So how will that work then, like for when there is a fund balance?
You mean like when you want to remove money from the fund balance?
Yeah.
What you'll show is your expenses will exceed your revenue. So you'll have a negative net of revenue and expenditure. So like on line 139, as an example, in this case here, we're going to add $9,800 to fund balance. But if you wanted to remove funds from your fund balance, your expenditures would exceed your revenue, and that would be a negative number.
So
And just so
will it be,
everybody knows, this is the millage. This is the millage.
where will that, like, how would that be notated then? Like, on, as far as from doesn't it almost have to land in revenue somehow?
Nope. We want to show revenue as revenue. The only thing in the revenue section will only be revenue.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it later. I don't want to take up all the time. I'm just like, I'm just trying to think and understand how that would work. So we can talk about that.
Okay.
I think Carol's on, Bob, for Park.
Yes, I'm on. Go ahead, Bob. You can explain to them, or I can answer questions.
All right, Carol. Well, I see you have a lot of adjustments. So why don't you go ahead and explain your adjustments, starting with revenue.
Starting with revenue. All right. Basically, we have gone through, let's see, where's my revenue? We're asking for contributions from the general fund to be increased quite a bit, as you can see. We have, further on as we go through, you're going to see the reason for that. So I think we'll just skip that for now and come back to it. The rental revenue this year is, we're hoping for 20,000 again. We'll have to see what that comes up to. The cell tower revenue is 20,400. We expect that to stay the same. Our fireworks contributions, we're expecting around 7,000. We usually get around 6,000, so we're hoping for a little boost in that this next year, and that is pretty much our revenue there. If you want to go to the board fees, then we can go through the board fees. That's staying the same, 15,000, 232,000. The only things really bumping up for us are engineering fees, which is 803. We're bumping that up to 10,000. We have a master plan that we need to do for the next 4 years, so we're assuming that's going to be about $10,000. Contracted services, we want to bump up because we have a lot of, we've got a new park for one thing, and then we've got a lot of information and services that need to be done at White Park, Carr Park, Parmalee Park. So we were bumping up that fund for the contracted services. We're getting a new cleaning person, so for Carr and Samaria Park, janitorial services are going to have to bump up we've had some estimates, but we don't have any solid person come forward yet and give us a contract. So we're guessing on that as to going about 5,000 there. Under software maintenance, we're doing 1,500 for the revise. This is for the automated park registration system. That's going to be implemented soon, I hope. And let's see, fireworks at 20,000. That's remaining the same. Recreation Commission is community education. We donate 25,000 to them every year. That's going to remain the same. We're asking for $50,000 to do an ADA concrete walkway at White Park. None of our parks is ADA accessible, and that would probably be the best one, the easiest to make ADA accessible. So we're asking for that much to do that. Some of that we might recoup in a grant, but we don't know that at this time, so we're asking for the full amount for that.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a perfect one for that grant I turned you guys on to a month or two ago with the Community Foundation of Monroe.
Right.
But so the $50,000 for the concrete walkway, where would this go exactly? Because this is the first I've heard of this.
At White
I
Park,
heard about
we
an
have,
asphalt walkway throughout the trails, but I haven't heard about the concrete. So
this is a concrete walkway that would go next to the gravel walkway that goes around the entire White Park.
So you're saying you're going to put concrete next to the gravel around the entire White Park,
Yes.
and you're going to do that for 50,000?
Well, that was a ballpark figure that.
I'd be willing to bet that's about 300,000.
You think that much?
Oh my gosh, concrete on a mile trail?
I thought they
It's
said
got
it
to
was
be all
50.
level. You can't. I mean, you can't just slap down 2x4s and pour concrete. It's going to have to be shot in, dug up, leveled. I mean, you're going to have to deal with drainage issues out there. You've got bedrock that's gosh dang 6 inches down and flush to the ground at some points out there. Yeah, I would get a company to give you an estimate on it. 50,000 is nowhere near for concrete. Asphalt, maybe. Not
Yeah,
concrete.
we were trying to go with concrete.
I think you'd have a tough time even with asphalt at 50 grand in today's scenario.
Okay. Well, we can look into that again.
So
Any
who
other
did you get
questions
the
on-
estimate from, Carol? Who gave you an estimate? Who told you the 50 grand?
That was Chaz that got the estimate for that. Chaz Mann.
He actually got an estimate for that?
I believe he did, yes. I couldn't tell you who it was. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess you get an estimate.
If somebody had that, I'd get that contract signed in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yes. Tell them we want all the parks done.
All right, the other big bump is in our maintenance, general maintenance. We want to bump it back up to the 56,450 that it was back in 2019, 2020. We've got a new park. We've got Wheeler on board now, which wasn't on board the year before. So we're going to have maintenance issues there, mowing, etc. So we're trying to bump that back up. Refuse collection, we're trying to keep at 7,000. Again, that may have to go up a little bit because again, we've got some extra collections there. And capital outlay, we'd like to bump back up to 85,000. It was 85, it was 88, I think, in 2018-19. And we've got a lot going on with capital outlay. We're talking about replacing the pavilion poles at Carr Park. The tennis courts have to be redone there, and a pickleball court and tennis courts need to be redone at White Park. They're tearing out the basketball court at White Park and putting in 2 new basketball courts in the back. Possible lighting we're talking about there. So there's a lot of capital improvement going to be done on the parks in the next year or two.
Carol, did you say the basketball course will be going in the back, or they're going to be replaced?
They're taking out the one at White Park because it's low, it always floods.
Okay, so
Yeah,
they're gonna
correct.
be moved to a whole different area.
Right, a whole different area, back behind, sort of behind the tennis courts, but not right on top of them, further back.
Okay.
The only level spot we have out there that we could use.
Anybody have any questions? I mean, I think the big one that's sticking out to me right now is the concrete walking trails, because I don't know who Chaz got, but when you're dealing with government and you're dealing with park property and ADA compliance and drainage and the whole deal, 50 grand's not going to scratch the surface. I mean, it's just not. I think we're throwing money at nothing there. I think we, I don't know what the board thinks, but I don't know how you're going to get that done.
I think you
Well,
should.
if you're doing a matching grant, we could do the 50,000 to the matching grant if we get the grant.
But would you get a matching grant through like SEMCOG or MDOT?
Possibly.
Because
I mean, we have not applied for any grants yet, to my knowledge.
I'm
We
just
have not
saying,
applied
if
for
you
any
do
grants
that, if you go through SEMCOG or like the MDOT, double the project, because then you have to use the prevailing wages. Davis Bacon, you got to use. Sometimes they do minority contractors, and that's why our project was so high in downtown Temperance. So it's you're almost better off using local people and getting, volunteers to help and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, what's the board's thoughts? I mean, it's a big difference from our normal years. I know the parks do need help.
I think that 50K, we should pull it out for now, and we still have another meeting or two if they investigate. I just don't see earmarking 50 grand when we're almost positive there's no way we can spend it on that item.
I would have to agree, Rick, and go along with Paul. 50 grand. I mean, I've walked out there a lot. There's going to need to be trees are going to have to come down. Fences are going to have to be moved. There's a lot of work that would have to be done. And 50 grand is, like you said, is not even going to remotely touch the surface of that.
You probably have over 50 grand just in prep work.
Well,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, guys, you're going to have to, our engineers are going to have to look at it. I mean,
Sure.
they engineer every walking trail we have. That's why we have proper drainage and they don't flood and, so.
Is that something, since it's ADA compliant, or is that something that we're just trying to do for other citizens? Or are we being told to do that, so we're in compliance, or why is this coming about?
Yeah, we're not being told to do it, but it is on our radar that we need to have at least one area that's ADA compliant, and we thought this would be the easiest because we already have a trail there, so it's not like we're creating a whole new trail. We're following the one that we have, which is pretty level, and we thought that would be the easiest park to do that at.
I mean, it definitely is a good idea. I mean, the community would love it. I mean, you'd see people rollerblading out there. It would get used. I just think it's something that needs some heavy investigation to where, you see if there is grants, have our engineers look at it so it's being done up to government standards. Unless you're going to do like we did with the school in partnership, and we did 420 foot of 6 foot wide sidewalk for $600. But we got everything donated, volunteered, and that's how we got that done. But I mean, so feel free to, if you want, if we want to budget a chunk of money, but it's going to be something that you work with the unions and get, cement finishers. I mean, it took a lot of time and effort to put that together, though. So I agree with Rick. Pull it out until we get some solid numbers.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, pull it out of this one, and we'll re-examine it. Any other questions on anything?
So where does that leave us, Bob, at a normal year then? So normally we do 130 something on a normal year. So where does that at?
They're asking for $154,000 plus some change increase. As of
So
right now,
we're we're still over 100,000 from our normal years, roughly. 104.
154,000.
But you just took out 50,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if we subtract 50,000 from that
You're
revenue.
looking at 104 difference. So I guess with what Carol went over, I'm not seeing the $104,000 difference.
Right.
What are the bigger? There's got to be some bigger items that are getting us that far over, or is it just every area is bumped up?
I think pretty much every area has been bumped up a little bit because of the new addition of Wheeler. We've had property taxes go up. We've had, like I said, janitorial services are going to go up. We've got to get a new janitorial service. The gal we had is retired. So there's just a little bit, we're bumping up, or we're trying to get it back to what it was 2018, 2019, back up to that level. So that's where this extra comes in.
Now, this almost falls right in line with the questions about fund balance appropriated. Like, do you guys is there a bunch of money left over that was unused from this fiscal?
Actually, they're going to be way short. Here's the
Yeah.
problem. Last year, they had $65,000 there in fund balance appropriated. That means they took that money out of their fund balance. So their fund balance right now is,
Is already handled?
yes, it's at in a watch stage.
I'm with Paul there, though. I'm going through both pages here on expenditures, and the increases over previous year, I'm only seeing about 50 grand, give or take. I'm just doing these numbers in my head real quick. Not seeing that 104 after we took out that 50. Now, if the 50 was in it, it would be closer to 104, but now that it's out.
Because they were doing something with the tennis courts at Carr Park. They were tearing those out. I don't see that budgeted.
27,000 in capital outlay.
So that's the capital outlay one. Okay.
Yes, that's capital outlay.
Okay.
Because there was,
Okay, I see it now, the tennis courts. Yep.
because there was about $20,000 in reductions as well.
Well, and plus, they're not budgeting for seasonal maintenance either at $13,000 because we put that in my budget. So that would be a minus as well. Unless that's still in here. Is that still in here?
No, that's not in there.
Okay.
Well, no, it's not in there. Seasonal wages are in there for some reason, but not that. Well, Bob ran the numbers, so maybe he can tell you
Yep.
a little better as to where that extra expenses are.
Yeah, we can come back to this and take a closer look.
Yeah, because on your last page, Bob, it even shows a $93,000 increase, and that's with the 50,000 in there. So take that out, you're at 43.
Yep.
I mean, I think your numbers look correct. I think it's just being stated that 104 is incorrect.
Well, why don't we just move on? Let Bob do some homework with it. We all agree to take out the 50 for now. It's not even close. And we'll touch base with it next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys are doing with the parks.
Okay, so for recap on the park, we'll reduce the revenue by 50. We'll reduce the walking trails by 50, and I will review to confirm all the numbers.
Perfect.
Moving on to line number 317, Fund 235, which is Transit System Fund. No real change there.
We potentially could see a decrease. I won't know that and for a few more meetings with. But Krista, how would that work if we do see a major decrease because of COVID funds or relief funds that the transit system is going to be getting? Would that go back to the taxpayers, or would that go back into our fund, or how?
Well, the money, you want to know, we pay them the bill, we pay the bills that they send
Yeah.
us. So money wouldn't go back to the
Wouldn't go
residents.
back. Okay.
Because that's a millage that, was voted on.
Yeah, we could see a significant decrease is what I'm, with funding they're looking at, relief funds, that'll affect that. So,
That will just stay in the
okay,
thing.
sounds good.
Okay. Metro Act funds, Fund 245. Local Community Stabilization
Did you
Fund,
say 245?
Fund 245, yes, line 342.
Line 342. Metro
Line
Act.
342.
How much do we have in there? Revenue, Metro Act. Okay, so roughly 25,000. Okay. Okay, all right.
What's the $5,000 increase? It says deposit made in June, but I don't know what that means.
Let's see, I wrote the note there, but I'll have to go back and figure out what exactly that deposit is.
We don't have any expenses. So if we don't have any expenses, what are we putting? Why do we
Yep,
have
I made a note to verify what that deposit is.
Usually we get the metro fees from the state. If you could look into that, Bob, that'd be great.
That's why I'm kind of wondering why it's so low, Chris. I thought we had around 100,000 in there. I know we hit a lot of it with the project from the Lewis Avenue project we did, but okay.
I can look into it tomorrow and let you know.
So Metro Act fund balance is 273,000.
That would be the estimated balance, yes.
So I mean, we have a lot of money to look at projects. I mean, they're restricted, but we should really look at a right-of-way project, something on, just so the board knows, something on Temperance Road right there where they needed more on-street parking, where Village Pizzeria is, where it goes all the way down to some of the residential houses. We could, widen that road and, but something to look at. I mean, it's an option.
Okay.
Just so the board knows, I've been working for about a year and a half to get a piece of property from First Merchants Bank, now was Monroe Bank and Trust, off of Lewis Avenue, in between Creative Creations. I think it is the new business. Gosh, I'm having a Gathered Creations. There it is. And the bank, that little piece of property right there. I'm hoping to get it donated to us. And that's, if the board would agree and approve, we could make that a parking lot, because there's much needed parking down there. The wells were just removed, and I'm very close to bringing it to the board to hopefully, like I said, I've been working on it for a while, but I don't know when exactly the date's going to be. But that could be something where Metro Act funds, I believe, could probably be used. So, as like I said, parking is a bad situation down there.
You're saying to pave it, not to purchase it, because correct?
We would get it donated, and then we would make it a parking lot. So, okay, moving on.
So no changes at this time in 245, Fund 245. Fund 246, Local Community Stabilization. That came up with a question, I think, last meeting. I think, Krista, you had the answer to that, or Trudy, somebody had the answer for this one.
Yeah, that's the personal property tax reimbursements from the state. That was for many years put into Metro by mistake, and it was just sitting there. We've since gone through and fixed that. With you and I went through it, and with Trudy's help, we figured out what funds were Metro and what funds were the local community stabilization.
Do you anticipate any revenue for next fiscal year?
We do usually get some every year. What it is, it varies. I can look and see what it was the last couple of years and maybe get an estimate.
Leave it blank for now.
Yeah.
What happens to that revenue? Like as it's, and I mean, for the future, like what, obviously if it was being misallocated or whatever, but like what would be the purpose for that? Is that something that's restricted to something? Is that something that lands back into the general fund, or what is that?
Off the top of my head, I don't know 100%, because like I said, it was going into the wrong funds. I can get that information from the state site tomorrow, Craig, and get it to you.
Okay. All right, library, Fund 271, which is line 385.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff in the action's out of the millage, so, you know, pretty much, you know, oh, you have somebody calling in probably from the library. Does anybody have any questions for Jody or anything? I mean, Jody, did you have anything you wanted to add? It's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. I just wanted to clarify there were a couple of things, and B. Ellsworth is the treasurer of the Library Advisory Board. She sent me a text message about half an hour ago and said she had emergency over at the shop, so she had to go in and handle that. So I told her I was available. So just the couple things to clarify in case you notice, like in the contracted services, we're asking for a lot less money on that particular line item, and that's because last year we had budgeted $25,000 in there for HVAC repairs that we thought we needed to have done, which that money's going towards that chiller at this point. But I mean, we're budgeting more money for that as well. But that's one of the reasons that contracted services is lower. And then if you look at maintenance general, that's $7,000 lower this year, and that's because we had budgeted $5,000 in there to replace the trees and for the sidewalk repairs for this past budget year. So now what we've done is, if you go down to capital outlay, that's the line item that we've now added the chiller replacement in there, because initially we were hoping that it was just repairs to it, right? That's why we had budgeted money this past year for repairs to it in contracted services. Now that we know that it's a replacement, we're actually including that as a capital outlay item. In addition to that, in the capital outlay, we've got those added tutoring rooms that are part of the package we're working on right now, and a telephone system upgrade, because I'm still using a DOS computer for our voicemail system at the library, and I'm the only person that works there that still knows what DOS is, so that's kind of interesting. But that's something that we've put in there, and that fund is still quite a bit lower because this current year's budget capital outlay is where we had the cost for the carpeting and the whole desk recreation. So we had asked for a significant amount in that line item last year. So that's still lower this year. So, and again, we have, you know, currently right now we're sitting at about $500,000 in that fund because our tax money just came in. So this just as a reminder, this is all money, all of this in the entire budget is all money generated by the millage that's currently happening, runs through 2022.
Mr. Steiner has a quick question.
So,
Sure.
So Jody, quick question. You're saying that the chiller, that's in there under capital outlay, but yet we're reducing capital outlay 137? Does that make sense?
Correct, because this current budget year's capital outlay is like $400,000 because we knew we had that carpeting project in there. So it's still lower than what it originally was. We were estimating in there $70,000 for the chiller, $30,000 for the added study rooms, and then $10,000 for the telephone system upgrade. So that's where that 110 comes.
Okay, so you're planning on taking chiller money out of this current fiscal budget then instead of next one?
We've put it in next year's, but we're asking for it in next year's fiscal budget. Because we never budgeted for the chiller in this past fiscal year because we didn't know a year ago that the chiller needed to be replaced, right? So that's where we're sticking it in the budget, like as official request to replace it, thinking that by the time we get our specs written and bids accepted and all of that kind of stuff, we're getting pretty close to the next fiscal year anyway. So by the time the bill rolls in, it will be the next fiscal year probably.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it almost seemed backwards though. You're increasing your expenditure by 70,000 if you do the chiller, but yet you're still dropping your overall budget for expenditures by 137. It almost seems backwards
right,
there.
Because the carpeting project's going to cost a lot more than the chiller. So, I mean, this current fiscal year has the carpeting project in there, so that's why we're asking for a lot less money next year in that line item, because the chiller's not going to cost as much as the carpeting is. Does that make sense?
So you're talking those dollars coming out of the 2021 budget for the carpeting and the chiller.
Correct.
Okay.
Fully understanding that both of them might end up actually happening. I mean, we hope that they both could happen this fiscal year, but I don't know that we're really going to make it timing wise, you know.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, any more questions for Ms. Russ? Jody, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. I think everything else was pretty obvious and
Yeah. Well,
you know, really kind of beyond people's control. It's mostly utilities and that sort of thing.
Appreciate everything you're doing over there. So.
All right. Thanks.
Have a good night. All right, Bob.
Thank you. You too.
You want to recap?
Yep. 0 changes for library, correct?
There we go.
Nice recap. Line 493, which is Fund 291, Water Revenue Fund. Not much going on there. Fund 298, the Rehabilitation Fund. Then we go into Fund 305, Enchanted Forest Debt Fund. I did it.
Can we go back to water revenue?
That'd be line 493 is where it starts. Go ahead.
The interest savings for revenue is dropping $26,000. I feel like that's not nothing.
Something looks out of whack. Why the revenue was so high. I will have to pull the records.
Because it was really high.
Is it because so much money's been pulled out of there, Bob, for projects and that interest has changed?
Yeah, if money was pulled out, that would explain it.
Yeah, I mean, we've spent, gosh dang, $1.5 million, $2 million out of there in the last few years. I mean, so that would be a huge difference.
But as we're collecting it, it should be replenished with interest.
Yeah, the fund balances along the bottom don't look significantly.
You're sitting on $2-3 million. You're collecting major interest.
But you take it out. You take it out in 1 or 2 fell swoops, but you get it back over long term. So
yeah, I mean, some of this money is coming back for 15 years.
Right, but it's a higher interest too than what we were getting.
But I think probably what he's showing is correct.
We can double check and look into that tomorrow, Bob.
Yes.
Can I just say something in regards to that? I think the board needs to have a serious discussion on whether or not we're going to continue using that fund for road projects. I think we need to stop, in my opinion. There's road projects this year that are having to bond and spend $40,000 on their projects. but there's years in the past where they didn't have to pay anything. I just think we can't be consistent with it and fair to everybody because the money runs out. I mean, we could get that money back and it could be gone in one project. I mean, some of these projects are over $1 million, $1.5 million. Or what we do is we cap it, you know, to a max or something, you know.
We've spoke about this before, and in talking to the residents when they come in now, I said that we were going to try and group them so that when we do bond it out, it's not so much on one project. It would be multiple projects, so not as much money.
Yeah, and that's good though. But I'm saying though, I think we need to get out of the habit of using that fund for road projects, and really put a plan together with the drain commissioner and South County Water to use that money for our water system. You know, or some of it to fill in loops. We've got areas that can be connected and looped, and so they could get city water too. I mean, there's some areas, but that's a different discussion. Let's keep moving on.
Okay, to recap, I will do research to figure out why the interest dropped. Okay, back to line 567, which is Fund 305. We're starting to get into the debt. I did attach a debt schedule. Your first page and what's attached to the Excel file is a summary. But I did send everybody the complete detail of the debt schedules. So hopefully that helps quite a bit. So we can just scroll through all the debt funds in the special assessment districts, unless anybody has any questions on any of these.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yep, we just did all the deficit elimination plans.
Are we square with the state as far as for state shared revenue and any issues that the state had with our audit after, like with those last adjustments that we've made?
They've accepted my submissions. I have not heard of an answer yet.
Okay.
But they've accepted my submissions.
But that was the last of what we needed to do as far as you know?
That's correct.
Okay.
As far as state share revenue, I mean, Krista, you could probably speak to that. I don't know if you're forecasting anything from the state. I have not heard of any major changes.
I haven't.
Personally.
I know that Bob put something in our book here about with the revenue.
You have complete detail in your book, plus on the Excel spreadsheet, there's a tab called revenue sharing, and there's detail there also.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything, you know.
Yeah, I mean that'll be something the board's just going to have to look at when if we see a 10% reduction or something, then we go back to the table, and that's something Ms. Hirschberger, you know, brings up. This is a working document. I mean, things happen, things change, stuff comes up. You know, it's not set in stone. So.
Right.
Okay, we can skip down to line 1041, which is Fund 405. We have a road capital improvement fund that has been set up, but it doesn't look like it's ever been used. So that's an option for the future if you want to plan a large road capital improvement project.
I mean, as far as major road projects, the only thing we're looking at outside of Adler Road would be the second phase of Crab Road, which would be another $400,000. But we're in the process right now to try to exchange Crab Road to the road commission in exchange for another road, to change it from a local primary road system to a primary road system because of all the truck route and maintenance and everything that goes with that road. We're trying to make it a primary road instead of a local road, but it's a process. We are looking at that, but there is another layer. We're keeping an eye on it year to year, but there is, I mean, if the board does want to put monies away, that does need the second cap because you're seeing 1,000 trucks a day on it, semis. So
This would be a
it's-
great fund. This would be a great fund to hold that money. That would last over years. We could take it out of the general fund, save it here, and this would be a great place.
Yeah, I mean,
As an option.
It's up to the board. We could put
Yep.
50K a year in there or do something. But you're going to need it at some point. We're going to
Yep.
have a project at some point.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know how the board feels about the roundabout, but that could be something we, project in 2023, 2024. If the board feels strongly about moving forward with that, that could be an area we put money away for too. So.
And it's the same with the next fund, 446. It's just another capital improvement fund for long-term planning.
You guys want to put 100,000 in there now and see where we're at the end of all this, and then we could pick away at that? What do you want to do? I mean, we're not going to get around doing road funds. I mean, if we're going to show that we're putting away for, right now we're in maintenance mode. Obviously, everything I've read off to you guys is all maintenance, crack seals and, single seals and all that stuff. So, but,
I wouldn't be against putting something like that in
I
there
just don't
to
know
get it
what-
created and get it started.
Yeah, I just don't know what the number would be until, like I said, till Bob's got a final number for us here.
Yep.
And then we can say, hey, let's stick 100 here, let's stick 100 in the capital improvement. We're gonna have a little bit extra money from what I'm seeing, but
Yeah, I recommend once we're all done, we'll see how much money we got
Okay.
left.
let's
And-
revisit that then, Bob.
Yep, making a note. But these are available. All righty. Line 1096, Fund 494.
Hey, wait.
Oh,
Going,
sorry.
going back to the 446.
Yep.
I would like to put at least another 50 and 25 into that for this for the next year.
I agree 100%
That we didn't
with you,
just,
Craig,
that
but
we
I
didn't
thought we
just
were gonna
put
wait
one
until,
time.
I thought we were gonna wait until the end and revisit both of those. Or we can stick it in there now and see where we end up.
Well, if we were wise with both of those funds, they should be the first thing that we should be doing. I understand that they're newly created and all of that, but like if we're actually going to be good stewards of taxpayer funds, these should be the first things that we're putting money aside for, and then go the other route.
Well,
Is how it
without,
should go, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah, so Bob, what were we, 150 without the changes we made today? We just made a $200 and some $1,000 change with the roads. So we're in the green, what, 50, 60, 70,000?
Right now, I'm showing we're in the green 55,000.
So there you go. So that's with all of our changes because we didn't account for the park being increased over 100,000. So that's where our big hit was. So we've got, I mean, we can do right now if you want to throw 25 in each fund. But
I'd rather do 50 and 25,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
That's what we originally talked about, not this board, but the last board, that we created this fund to put the 50 and 25 every year.
but we don't have 75 extra right now. We only have 50.
well, that's the thing though, is you're
So we
never
can
going to
go-
have that's why you need to do those kinds of things first, because that's not how you
Well,
actually
we
save and
could cut-
prepare. You got to put the money aside no matter what, and
Well-
then go, you know what, we can't do, there's other things that we need to cut.
We could cut 25 more out of the roads fund. I mean, it's,
Well,
But
if you're doing that, you're putting that into the roads capital improvement.
yeah, I mean, you could.
But
Why
I
don't you
think
do that,
I-
Bob? You could
I think
drop
both of
roads
those
to
funds-
275, take 25, throw it in the roads right here. And then the extra 50 right now, or 55, throw 50 of it in the capital, like Craig was saying, and that pretty much evens us out. And then if we do, after we're all said and done, we could tweak things here and there.
Okay, I'm making a few notes here, but that 55,000 I gave you does not include the extra 100,000 or so going to the parks. So we'll be short, what, 45,000? I haven't done the math on
Okay,
that.
so that's major change. All right. Why don't we do this, Bob? Let's talk about it next meeting. And
Yeah,
then
we'll
we'll
get all
have
the
a good idea where we're at. So you're not put on the spot.
Yep, we'll get all the updates done, send it out, and then we can reevaluate.
I get what you're saying, Craig. Put it where we got first, but what we'd have to do is go through this daggum thing again and then cut all the areas. And I think you're going to see a change in the park thing because it's not adding up.
And that's what I'm saying. I understand like the situation, especially as we're finally barely getting those accounts even established. But if we're gonna be wise with it, how you have money for those things is it's the first thing you put money to.
Yes.
You put the money goes there, and you got to figure the rest of everything else out.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, I understand it because of the situation, but moving forward and like in general, that should be taking top priority.
Well, because we're not doing major road projects anymore, we're looking for the first time in, gosh, Trudy, 8 years that we're going to have a balanced budget without pulling out of the rainy day fund or so we're looking to have a balanced budget, I think, but we haven't gone through this packet either with a fine tooth comb and got skittish with everything like we did back in August and July. I think if we did that, you could probably cut quite a bit more. But, okay. Moving on.
Okay, Fund 494, which is line 1096, downtown development.
Yeah, so you're not going to see, you're going to see major changes. There's a lot of projects coming. They got the speed signal signs coming. They're looking at putting a mast arm signal at Quail Hollow and Kroger's entrance. They're looking at doing Christmas lights on their own outside of what the maintenance department normally does. They're contracting a company to set them up. They're looking at doing a festival, the Bedford Blue Bash in the fall. That's going to be some money. So there's lots of stuff going on, but yeah, plenty of money in there, and things are going well. I think there's almost $1 million in the fund. So they're doing what they need to do is spending it and improving the downtown area. So,
okay.
Any questions on DDA? No. Okay.
All right, we got one fund left, and we have about 20 minutes left. Sewer O&M.
Krista's looking like, wait, you looking at me?
Well, I was gonna let Bob do what he was doing earlier, so
He's on a roll. We should.
I'm going to stick with the same plan. Any questions?
Do you want to, Bob, you kind of answered my questions from the board meeting on Tuesday with the bond principal and bond interest. Do you want to like explain that, I guess, to the rest of the board just to give more clarity to that situation? Yes. I don't know if anyone else
that's
has
line number. That's line number 1,204 and 1,205. Craig pointed out that our bond interest far exceeded our budget. The reason that happened is at your last budget season, we did not know the value of the sewer bond 7, number 1 and number 2. So it was not fully budgeted for. The sewer bond number 7, or the sewer bond 7, number 2, has still not been totally finalized. And this is in your debt schedule packet. So that is why.
Front main page in the debt schedule.
Yep. So that is why the bond interest was under budgeted. They just didn't know what it was going to be.
And I think one of my, a thing that really, why I think it stuck out to me when I was like going through the balance sheet was how massively, how much more the interest was than the principal. And kind of like, that's what caught my gut. But you have two new bonds coming in with, I think both of them having the first two payments have zero principal along with them. They're pure, the first two payments for both of those are 100% interest. So not only is it at the very beginning of the bond where interest will be high, there's also no corresponding principal with that, if that makes sense.
Yep, your first principal payment will not be due until fiscal year 2023.
Just for those two for sewer 7.
Yes, you're correct, just for sewer 7, bonds 1 and 2.
So that which explains here why you'd have it looks really goofy in the balance sheet, and like here to have 160% increase in your bond interest.
Yep. And of course, that principal you see on there is for sewer bond or sewer number 6. So there's 3 sewer bonds.
Is there any value in splitting those up as far as line items go?
Not necessarily, because we have a debt schedule, but it's easy enough to split up if we choose to do so.
I'll think about it. I don't think it is. It's just for, again, it's like just clarity to look at it and understand, like similar to in the fire fund, you're looking at it and going, okay, like what Chief was saying, all of that is basically allocated to Fire Station 2. So without explanation, looking through the books, that's not clarified necessarily. And I don't know that, like I said, here to have 2 or 3 different bond principal and bond interest line items, I don't know if that's necessary or not. Probably not, now that it's been explained, but.
Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of the meeting, getting ready for public comment. Bob, do you have anything else you want to add to it?
Nope, I'm good. I'll get you out revised versions.
I just want to say something really quick, Bob, how appreciative I am of this packet and everything you've done to it, because this is my 9th one, and it's just night and day. And I do want to say that this didn't come by Bob being in here Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. This happened because he was here, I ain't kidding you, 7 days a week. I drive by our building 4 and 5 times a day because I go to church, and his truck's here. I don't know if there's a way we can give a bonus or do something, but we should look at something to do for him, because he didn't sign up for this. He didn't sign up to come in here and be put at 7 days a week, but he did it with a smile on his face, and he got us out of a hole. And I can't thank you enough from me, and I can guarantee everybody on this board will agree. But if there's a way, Trudy, you can look into something we can do, and I know he works underneath you, and I'm not trying to step on your toes, but we should figure out a way to give him a bonus and do something for him. I mean, he's, in my opinion, going above and beyond what the Call of Duty is.
He would like a week off vacation.
First, I gotta get through this. After this, then the audit season starts up again.
Yeah, in my opinion, give him a week off plus $1,000 bonus if we can do it. I'm serious. We should budget for it. Bob, you've gone above and beyond. I mean, and truly, if there's a way to do it, I think there is. I think we should budget for it.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
$1,000 bonus plus a week off.
I can bring it to the board at the next meeting.
Okay, let's do it. Thank you, Bob. Seriously.
You're welcome.
Do you have any public comments, George? Okay. Any comments from board members?
Hey, Paul, real quick. I did get a clarification reference, the walking trail. That was supposed to be paved for a half mile of asphalt. It had
Yeah,
nothing to do with.
Yeah, that's what I had heard asphalt. That's why I questioned the concrete.
Yeah,
Concrete makes more sense, Joe, with ADA compliant. Because
absolutely.
how are you going to get from the gravel parking lot to the asphalt? I mean, there's no real way to make asphalt ADA compliant without concrete going into it. Man, they need to get with Manick and Smith, our engineers, and do a study on this. If this is the goal, to make it ADA compliant, because there are stringent things you have to do in order to make it ADA compliant. And throwing asphalt around a circle and calling it ADA compliant isn't going to get the job done.
No,
I can
I
tell you
agree
that
with
right
you.
now. We'll end up getting sued. So, other than that, anybody else have any comments?
I'll just reiterate the same thing, Bob. You did a tremendous job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, we stand adjourned. Okay, all right, go ahead and admit it.
Hello?
Good evening, go ahead and state your name and address and go ahead with your 2-minute comment.
Gail Cade, 1056 West Temperance. Just a couple quick questions. Maybe our parks should consider getting, and the roads, I'm just curious who's making this decisions. I'm wondering, did the trustees know of all these road projects? And what is the senior center money used for? And which road swap are we going to do for Crab? That's it. Thank you kindly. Bye.
Answer her question. So, oh no. Okay, so all right, I'm back. Gosh, it went away. So Manick and Smith has an asset management program that we pay for, that we set up, that we do, and they have a list of roads that get done by year, and then they have a maintenance program. So that's, that's how it's done. It's not Paul Peroni sitting back here saying, hey, here we go, here's what roads we want to do. So, and then the senior money is used to offset the seniors programs. I mean, it's to help fund them, and we can do that per law, and we can fund farmers markets. There's certain things that this board can fund that are legal. There's not many. I think it's farmers markets and senior centers, but and veterans memorials. There's a few things, but there ain't much you can use taxpayer dollars to fund things. And as far as the road swap, we don't know. We're far off that. We're looking at a few different options, but other than that, anybody else have any questions or comments? So again, thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody. But hey, for the schedule, are we going to have one more meeting to go over the changes? Trudy, how do you want to do this?
Well, we already have one set up for May 6th.
But do we need to do it?
Yes.
Well, we'll need to do at least go over the changes.
Okay, so let's do that. Stay on schedule, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. We stand adjourned. Have a great night.
Good evening.
See you later, everybody. Have a good night.